Hey Matthijs, welcome. Welcome Paula. Welcome Nienke. Welcome Corrie. Welcome Tim. Nice. Okay, so then we're gonna start the session, and maybe some people will get in later, but I will just like quietly get them in. So welcome everybody. Welcome from all the people from the woods, from different countries, from different backgrounds, different experiences with the topic. Welcome to this regenerative learning session. It's the 5th regenerative learning session and also the last one of this year, of 2022. And these regenerative learning sessions are organized by the Regeneration Corporation, and they're on the different aspects of regeneration. So it's on economy, on ecology, social, or spiritual regeneration. Today we're going to talk about building your regenerative brand, and that's all about storytelling as well, how to engage people with our stories, so that we can let this movement grow and flourish. So I'm really excited for today. I'm excited for the two experts that we have with us today, Matthijs from Wilderland and Marielle from Wool Brands. And Marielle told me that if you have questions, you can put them in the chat and we will handle them in the end. We go through them, but then we don't lose them. So yeah, put your questions in the chat. I'm just gonna give this online floor to Marielle. So Marielle.
Hi everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Super good. Okay, well, thank you, Laura, for the introduction, and I'm super excited to be here today and meet you all. I just wanted to start with a quick with a quick introduction of myself. And as Laura already mentioned, I'm super excited to hear your own ideas about building your brands and where you're at and what your questions are. So please put them all in the chat so that we don't forget them. And then just a small check. Is Matthijs also there? Okay,
yes,
great.
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. So then let's start a bit about myself. Well, my name is Marielle. I founded my company Whole Brands in 2014. Coming from a background working in commercial marketing jobs for large fast-moving consumer goods companies like Nestle and in retail like Albert Heijn. And in 2014, I had the urge to do something useful and impactful with the professional background that I had at the time. So I combine an experience with those large companies with sort of 9 years of building impact-driven brands. I'm also a psychologist turned marketeer. So I was originally trained as a psychologist. So I really enjoy the combination of guiding and coaching my clients and my work as a marketeer. And in 2017, my sort of regenerative path began when I started working for Commonland and Weiland. And I got infected with the virus of the beauty of landscape restoration and regenerative agriculture by the film Groen Goud or Green Gold by John DeLeeuw. And I started being really sort of interested in the topic, and that's how I started working more and more for companies that are in that area. So that's a little bit about myself. And of course, this is a joint presentation, not only by me, but also by Matthijs. And this is the best picture I could find of Matthijs, obviously. So Matthijs, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'm Matthijs, a co-founder of Wilderland, or Wilderland. And I think it's 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago that Dan and I started this company because we wanted to start a regenerative business, also inspired by the whole Common Land world. Dan worked at Common Land and I had other job before, which is no. So we wanted to start a business that would, the more it grows, the more nature returns. And I think we'll learn more about that business in this presentation. So I'll leave it.
Definitely. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to do is to share a little bit about some key sort of insight I have about what it actually means to be a regenerative brand, or what regeneration actually means for brands. And I thought this quote was a very good sort of sum up of how I see that all flourishing is mutual, is that it's really about the sort of concept of if you profit, I profit as well. So it's about interconnectedness. These brands are about actually changing the status quo. So not only sharing sort of a story that is about greenwashing and doing good, but actually sort of really from the inside trying to change the status quo. It's about being an integral part of nature. It's about being nature's entrepreneurs, as I like to call it. It's also about knowing yourself and what your background is and thinking like generations ahead. For me, it's also very much about being context specific. So, and what I mean by that is about knowing where you are at and what the impact is you are making in your local area, as opposed to being a multinational and being very large scale and not really sort of being in touch anymore with where you are at. So the question arises whether a multinational can actually be regenerative. And that interconnectedness that I mentioned before is also very much about that these type of regenerative brands are usually about collaboration and not about competition. So if you're all aiming for the same thing, then it's a good thing to work together instead of sort of being competition with each other. So yeah, and this is actually my sort of a sum up of the experience I have with building impact-driven brands over the past years. And I noticed, I'm not really fond of sort of models, but I noticed that there were 4 elements that always came back in the successful brands, impact-driven brands that I work for. And those are 4 E's: ethics, aesthetics, economics, and ecosystems. And the first one, and they are actually all interconnected. And the first one is ethics. And ethics is very much about the type of brands that I work for are always in business to regenerate. So they are in business to do good. It's not something that they are claiming to do, but it's something that they are actually doing. And aesthetics is the second one. And the interesting thing is, when you are a very ethical brand and no one is seeing what you're doing, or you don't have a clever sense of business, then it's what I call you're green but unseen. So you need aesthetics. And what I mean by aesthetics is knowing how to communicate your story and how to do that in a very appealing, creative way. So, and I think Wilderland, we will speak about that more, is a very good example of that combination. So the third one is economics. I very much believe in brands that are a combination of doing good and working for profit, because I think that if you have a clever business sense, you will also be impactful. So the outer ring is what I call ecosystem, and that ecosystem works in two ways. It works in the sort of natural sense of the word, so that you're actually aware of the fact that you're a part of nature. And the second one is an ecosystem of working with the right people. A lot of times, sort of the entrepreneurs I meet are trying to do a lot of things by themselves. But I think it's a very important thing to realize that you need others to grow your brand. Let me see. Oh yeah. Yeah, then I want to share a little bit with you about the process of how it actually works sort of in my profession to build a brand like this. And this is the process Matthijs, Daan and myself also did with Wilderland. It's actually 2 steps. And the first one is a brand foundation, and the second one is implementation. And I call those things dream, dance, and deliver. This was a really nice sum up of 3 words that actually say what we do in specific stages, but I will go in more detail of these steps in the coming slides. But first, before you start a process like this, I think one of the most important things to do is to define what it is that you're actually asking. So I thought this quote by Einstein was a very inspiring one, because he's saying in a very true way that you need to spend a lot of time knowing what you're actually asking for. So in my work, what I do is I work in a systemic way. So I try to make sort of entrepreneurs feel what their brand feels like at this point in time and what they are aiming for in the future, and then try to establish what type of questions we need to ask in order to get there. Yeah, so what I find interesting to ask you at this point in our presentation, if you have any ideas about if you have a brand, so where are you at today, and what would be sort of a question you have if it comes to your brand at this point in time. If you have one, just put it in the chat and we'll try to answer them at the end of our presentation. So now if we go back to where it all started for Daan and Matthijs, it was not Wilderland, it was PTT. So I think it's nice to now ask Matthijs what his question was once we started this process.
Yes. Yeah, so Daan and I started PTT, which was a company selling Dutch local herbal tea via the post. And PTT is a joke towards the old mail delivery of the Netherlands. So just a name with a bit of a joke in it. And we started. So when we met Marielle, I think we were 1 year or a bit longer doing what we did, and we were in the phase that we had the proof of concept. So people liked the product, liked the idea behind it, and so we had like a minimum viable product, which was a proof of concept. So, and we won the ASM Bank Wereldprijs, or with a prize of a big Dutch sustainable bank, and we won, and we had some money with that. And by winning this prize, we got a lot of questions from supermarkets to other brands, like from the discounter supermarket to the high-end supermarket. They all were like, we want your product. And for us, it felt like, okay, everybody is pulling our product out of our hands and they want something with us, but we don't know whether we want to do this. So we came to a point where we said like, okay, yeah, so the idea behind our product and our product is working. but what's next? Because now we need to think more strategically about our next steps. So where do we want to be in 2 to 5 years? And at that point, we figured that we didn't know these answers. So do you want to work with a discounter at this point? Or is that like bad for your brand? Do you want to work with, do collabs with these kind of people, or sell your product to as a white label to another brand at this point? We were like, we don't know. So and then for us, Marielle came, and it was like, okay, let's take a few steps back and see what do you want to, so like, if it was up to you, where do you want to grow towards? And I think, yeah, so it was a really like a big strategic question we asked Marielle. So like, we have this product and we don't know what's next. Help.
Yeah.
We need guidance. Actually, that was like, we need brand and marketing guidance on this next phase.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a question. I'm really curious to learn whether you have any. I'm just showing you this picture because it gives you an idea of sort of what the process steps are that we take when you sort of encounter a journey like that, after Matthijs sort of asked me that question. And I will go into these steps in more detail later, but it's a good thing to realize that how this picture works is that the upper part is about dreaming. So it's about your vision, it's about what you mean to others, it's about your ambition. The right hand side is about, okay, what do we actually want to achieve for people, for nature, in terms of our own profit? And the left hand side is actually where you are now. And the dance in the middle is sort of all the buttons you can turn to be able to go from the left to the right. To go a bit into detail of those steps, the first one is about building a brand foundation. And one of the most important parts of a brand foundation is making a brand positioning. And a brand positioning is really about the question who you are as a brand and why that's even relevant or important to anyone else. It's about knowing what your vision is. And as the way I see a vision is what you see happening in the world around you that you want to tackle with your brand. It's about knowing what your personality traits are. What I get asked a lot of times when I start working with brands is, okay, I need a new website. I need to be able to reach people. And I always ask, did you think about what you actually want to put on that website? And usually they don't. And that's exactly why a brand positioning is relevant. It takes time, yes, but it makes you sort of have a compass for everything that you do in the future. And it's a compass that's not only relevant for your branding, but it's a compass that's also relevant for example, the people you're going to hire, or the choice of sales channels you will make, like Matthijs was just mentioning before. So it's really functioning as a compass. Well, then if we go back to Waterland again and to the dream they had, well, this was what the process looked like. we were sitting under Daan and Matthijs's lamp, and every time that they were selling something, the lamp would go off. That's something I remember very well from the process. And maybe Matthijs, you want to share a little bit about sort of your dream in the coming slides, and just
Yes.
let me know when you want me to flip.
So I think how it all started is like that we wanted to create a regenerative business. So the bigger we grow, the more nature returns, or more biodiversity returns. And we figured like we wanted to become like the regenerative Unilever. So I think like for farmers, and we wanted to work with farmers because they're like the biggest land user. So therefore it was like, okay, we need to find a business model for farmers on biodiversity. And then it was also like a lot of farmers, they can sell their, or I think like farmers can sell their like fresh produce locally, or that should be like a market. But like a lot of products, you need like some processing. So to make tea from herbs, you need a dryer and processing facility. To make a cordial from. So we thought, oh, maybe we can become like the partner that does this processing and also is like has the market, because farmers also say like, I want to become as regenerative as possible, but there needs to be a market for it. And we thought, okay, maybe we can use, like, we're more like the entrepreneurial types. Let us build a business and create and find a market for all these regenerative products. So therefore we came up with the ambition like, a regenerative Unilever sounds good. So that consumers know from, oh, if there's a Wilderland on it, I know the more I eat, drink, buy, sell, give it to others, the more nature will return. So yeah, that's our ambition.
Yeah. So and then this one came along when we were speaking about, okay, what is actually the identity of Wilderland, and we came down basically to the essence of these two words. It's always about rewilding yourself. So it's about going outside, experiencing your own local nature. And the idea was that, if you can't always go outside, then we can just deliver nature to your doorstep with our teas. So you will always enjoy nature and strengthen farmers and biodiversity at the same time. So that's sort of, I think you can elaborate also on that, Matthijs, but this is still the sort of guiding principle of everything that Wilderland does.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
So this, I think you can also share a bit more about, Matthijs. This is actually the sort of values we came to, is that the sort of a personality type that Wilderland is obviously saying also a lot about the founders. And sometimes you even have, if you have two different types of founders, you will probably have some character traits from one and character traits from the other. But I think, Matthijs, it's nice to share a bit about what this says about you.
Yeah, and I think also good to know for all the people watching, like, these are the results we came, like all these texts we didn't come up ourselves with. So in together with Marielle, we figured out, yes, it's about rewilding. Yes, like the anti-hero fits us or fits our ambitions. So that was really helpful, actually, because once it's on paper, it looks simple, but before it's on paper,
right.
it's like, so a bit of this and a bit of that, or maybe this and maybe that. So what we felt is like the anti-hero was a good sum up of, or like a good saying it all, because we felt like we also wanted to be like an anti-tea company. So we didn't like an anti-brand. So we didn't felt like, okay, a lot of people say like, oh, you're selling tea, then you need to be this kind of packaging, this and this, because all tea companies are doing that. And actually with everything we did, or the way our business was put up and the way we work, it's like the exact opposite of all other tea companies, or because it's much cheaper to get chamomile from India. It's much economically more efficiently to produce it in monocultures, but we did it locally and in polyculture and like economically super stupid, but ecological super efficient. So therefore that anti-hero worked for us. And also, so our starting point in everything we do is nature, and we want to have like our business to strengthen local biodiversity or local landscapes. So therefore, entrepreneurs in service of nature was like, oh yes, that's actually what we do. We want to find market for nature positive products. The next one is Huppatee. And for the Dutch people, they'll see the joke in that. But We wanted to keep it light and not so. Like actually, I'm a bit allergic for all communication about regenerative, biodynamic. It's like all these. It's so super serious, and everybody. It feels like a lot of people are taking themselves really seriously when talking about this, and we felt no, we wanted to have it more light and it can be fun and yeah, we're making tea from weeds, so let's keep it let's don't make it more than just selling weeds, and like a dandelion, you can dry it yourselves and then you have tea, or so it's not that super special what we're doing, so let's keep it light. um yeah, and the no mono was a thing. Yeah, we want to, we're the opposite of mono culture. So in everything we need to do, or it is like no mono. As long as it's no mono, it's good. Um, yeah, so diverse in all ways, so to say. And yeah, the off the beaten track. That's the also the thing what I already said. Like everything we do is done on a different way. We were not experienced in like building an FMCG company, and we were not experienced in ecology, and so we had to figure everything out for ourselves. But that was also like an advantage, because then you can say, how stupid to grow products in monocultures if you need pesticides, blah blah blah. Why not do it this way? Why not do it that way? So by asking all these questions, why is this and why is that, we came out of the beaten track, and that's actually what we like as well. Like we like to have things new and done in a way that we think it's more logical. Um, and so yeah, these were in by talking to Marielle in their sessions was like, yes, actually that this is important to us, and this actually fits us, and this fits our way of working, this fits our personalities, this fits our ambitions. So that was really helpful to get this clear, because even now I think, yeah, this is still
Still true.
still true. And for us, I think it helped that Dan and I are like we're co-owners together, so there are no investors, no other, so we could do it like all the way we felt was right. So but it was really yeah, so it's really psychological branding exercises, this to know like what is it we want and where do we want to go to with this business. And yeah, these are our values.
I'm not hearing you quite well all the time, Matthijs. I'm not sure if
Oh.
that's in my connection or yours, but no, but thanks for elaborating on that. But and it's actually a nice point for me to sort of ask you to also put in the chat if you have any thoughts on if you have a brand, because I'm not sure if everyone here in the audience is a brand owner, to think about, you know, if you think about your own personality as a brand, what would it be like, and to share some sort of words maybe in the chat or questions you have about that, so that we can speak about those later. Yeah, and then obviously this one, I think you spoke about that maybe also a bit in your ambition, Matthijs, but this was, I'm not sure if everyone knows what a BHAG is, but your BHAG is actually a big, hairy, audacious goal, meaning, you know, if you get to look like 20 or 30 years ahead in the future, what would be sort of your big dream? And in our sessions, we thought about, you know, what would be a really big thing that we want to change, and that was making Dutch local tea the new normal. Because now, I mean, we fly in tea leaves from Sri Lanka to the Netherlands, but we can actually, like Matthijs said, just make tea from weeds and make really delicious tea from weeds as well. I don't know, Matthijs, do you want to share something else about that, or?
Yeah, I think like eating local is like a big a good BHAG. Yeah, that's what we like. Like every ecosystem or every landscape has so much to offer, and for tea, but also for all other products. And I think getting people like making that the new normal, that people first think, okay, what's logical to eat in my area, or what's logical to drink. That's way cooler than have this globalized monoculture world. And so I think, yeah, eating local is a very big, hairy, audacious
Big,
goal,
hairy.
because now everybody's eating global.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so if we go back to sort of the elements of that brand foundation that I spoke to you before, you know, in the sort of green slide that I shared before, what is actually a very important step to take right after you've been, you know, in our first sessions with Wildland, we had been dreaming a lot about, okay, what do we want to achieve? Where are we going? But the next step after that is to be really clear on the status quo. So be really clear on where we were today. And that's a journey into exploring, in case of Daan and Matthijs, what's the landscape we are in? What are our farmers like? What do they need? But also, what's the tea category like? What's happening there? Is it growing? Are there a lot of sales channels involved? Meaning, where is tea being sold? Is it in a supermarket? Is it in restaurants? What type of competition is there? What type of other players? What are the prices they use? What is their product offering? So we deep dived into the analysis of that, and the picture I want to show you now is sort of what came out of that. Was this sort of slide where we said, okay, there's actually two axes happening in tea. The one is, you know, you have these really high-end luxury brands, and you have really mainstream ones. You have brands that are really high on taste, and you have some brands that are actually about being organic or being better for nature. And yeah, so we try to sort of segment all of them and see what that meant for PTT at the time as a brand. And we noticed that that there was none that was really about contributing to local biodiversity and contributing to nature. So that's why we chose to, that's how we could understand sort of how we would segment ourselves as opposed to other brands. Matthijs, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, and didn't we like the circle determines the market share, we thought, and our ambition.
Yeah. Yeah, so we already knew then that it was going to be really, really big.
Yeah. And actually, yeah, this exercise was really nice to like, you feel that you're different than other brands, and that, but positioning yourself in this whole field makes it easy to see, like, oh yes, that's how we differ from them, and that's how we differ from them, and that's why we're not, yeah, do we want to be high end or mainstream, or so these are already nice exercises to do, to get to understand your business and your position better.
Yeah, so another very important part of this brand foundation part is that we're actually delivering. So what are we delivering, and to whom? So the first step there is to really understand who your people are, basically. And what I mean with people is those can be a lot of different groups of people. And I'm actually a firm believer of the fact that if you're really clear on who you are, you will attract all kinds of people, and usually the right ones. But in terms of thinking about who you're actually going to talk to, it's really helpful to not only understand who the different groups of people are, but also know what you call a core target group is. So what is the group of people that you actually want to start talking to in the first place? So people that are most close to your proposition, that are very much drawn to the work you do, they will actually become your ambassadors. They will start talking about you. So Here is also another interesting question, I think, for yourself is, if you have a brand, again, do you know who the people are that you engage with and the ones that you want to talk to? So for Wilderland, we came up with an interesting target group, and we called them the New Greens. So we spoke about old and new greens, but this is the group of people that we came up with, and I tried to find a picture that was sort of approaching them best. But Matthijs, can you share a bit about who they are?
Yes, yeah. So the New Greens, yeah, maybe it's good to the old Greens are like the really critical, super. They already. It's hard to explain in English. Let's stick to the New Greens. They're like.
Maybe it's a bit sort of people that are a bit older, that want to sort of contribute, but do that in a more NGO type of way, right?
Yeah.
Sort of a bit more conservative.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the New Greens, we figured, are like people 25 or like to age 25 or actually no age, like people that feel like I need to change, or I need to eat a bit more vegetarian or buy more conscious. So they're not already super conscious, super green, but they feel like, yes, I feel I need to change as well with my behavior or my habits or my how I sell and what I sell. So it's people that are open towards new products that are sustainable, because they're like the world of sustainability, of conscious consumerism is new to them, but they feel like, I want to be part of this.
Yeah.
Young urban people, Patagonia clothes, these kind of people.
Yeah. So then, with all that information, so actually knowing what our market is, who the people that we were working for, we were able to define our brand promise. And I want to explain a little bit to you about what a brand promise is, because that's quite an important aspect of your brand positioning. It's actually describing how you make your purpose come to life. So it's how you do the things you do. And a brand promise is very much about being relevant for a specific target group at this moment in time. So for Wilderland, we came up with, so this is the English version, we create a Wilderland with herbal tea. So it's what is good to know about the difference between a brand promise and a purpose is that a brand promise is very much in the now. So it's very much relevant at this moment in time, whereas a purpose is a lot more sort of the emotional thing that you do forever, basically. And a good example of this is that, for example, this brand promise for Wilderland is very much about herbal tea, which was at the time the thing that Dan and Matthijs was going to launch. And today the brand is about a lot more products and propositions than only herbal tea. So there you understand a bit about the difference of these between those two aspects. So then if we move on, the last part of a brand foundation is basically what you could describe as a marketing strategy or a marketing plan. And those are the most important building blocks. You could also call them, in the traditional sense, the marketing piece. Those are actually the building blocks and the things that we do to keep our promise. So that is about your offering, your assortment, where you are sold, the way you speak, so your communication and collaboration. So I can tell you a little bit more about these specific elements, and maybe Matthijs can fill me in a bit on how those are also for Wilderland. but your assortment is basically the choice on what you are selling. So in the case of Waterland, it was a specific fixed assortment of 3 varieties of herbal teas and seasonal varieties and varieties that Daan and Matthijs would develop with specific farmers. The way we keep our promise in terms of sales channels was that we said, okay, we first want to build our brand very close to where our identity is. So in outlets that are very close to nature. So for example, restaurants that are in outdoor settings. And that combined with our own sales through the website, so that we would make sure that we have a conversion from that sales in that restaurant setting to people actually placing their orders online on the website. And we would later expand that to sort of business settings. The communication layer I will come back to later. And collaboration is also an interesting one, is that we had a very interesting discussion about, okay, who are like-minded people and like-minded brands that are sort of also trying to regenerate, and which are the brands that we can work for that we can work with, and what are the sort of guidelines that we have to sort of decide whether we want that or not. I'm just looking at Matthijs. Is there anything you want to elaborate on these aspects?
No, thanks.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so then I want to share a little bit about the process of how we sort of moved from knowing who you are as a brand, in the case of Wilderland, towards sharing our story. And yeah, this is an interesting one, magic in, magic out. It's as opposed to garbage in and garbage out. And this means that if you want to, it's sort of a #1 marketing lesson for me, that if you want to develop great creative work, you have to know what you're actually asking for. So a good briefing and thinking about what you're actually going to ask, like a designer or a copywriter, is a super important aspect that a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with tend to forget. So it's something that we sort of gave a lot of attention to. And then to share a little bit before we show you some examples about the process. How do you actually develop creative work? Well, it's important to sort of understand a bit what the elements are of a communication strategy. It's defining targets. So it's knowing what your sort of marketing target is. So do you want to reach new people, and do you want to, so and another important one is knowing, as we said before, who your target group is, what your brand promise is, how you're proving that, but also describing and visualizing the tone. So in the case of Wilderland, we also gave quite some time to understanding how we talk. So and what kind of words do we use, and what kind of words do we not use? What type of communication and other brands do we admire, and what do we not? And we sort of put all those elements together in a creative brief before we started looking for a team of people that we wanted to sort of work together with. And that's another important part of what I believe in, and I called it here perfect matchmaking, is that I didn't start my own sort of agency on purpose, because I want to work with a specific team of creative people for every specific client, because every client is different. And I very much believe in working with people that are very professional in their creative roles. So for example, as a copywriter, as a designer, but they also understand what it's like to work for impact-driven brands. So in the case of Wilderland, I remembered meeting a very nice outdoor driven guy who worked for a very big agency that I thought at the time was far too big for the question that I was going to ask him. So you actually have two ways where you can go when you want to work with creatives. The one way is working with a very big agency you will definitely not be able to afford, but you just persuade them to work with you and be creative on that. And the other one is to work with a team of individuals, of, for example, a group of ZZP'ers that are really good at what they do and that you guide them very well. So in the case of Wilderland, we chose the first. We decided to work with Staat, creative agency, and they were so super enthusiastic about the concept of Wilderland that they basically wanted to work with us, and that we made that work financially. And then if all things come together, so you have a really good briefing, you ask them to come up with a very great creative concept, and a creative concept is actually the thing or the creative idea that's going to bring all of the work you did before and all of the things we said before come to life. Then there's going to be the wow factor, as we call it. And that's basically what also happened with Wilderland, because before that we were still working under the name of PTT. And afterwards they made the really cool creative transformation to Wilderland. So I just want to show you some examples of what they did with our creative brief. And Matthijs, if you want to fill me in, just go. So this is in one of the first meetings, we came up with the fact that we weren't really sure if we wanted to change the name PTT. I was sure about the fact that it was not really helping us in sharing our story, but Dan and Matthijs were definitely not convinced. So when we went to Staat and we had that discussion again, they were also sort of pushing to change the name in something that would really contribute to the brand story, and then they came up with Wilderland. And when they presented it, I remember that all three of us were instantly super happy. So this is then the sort of typography that they presented with it. The packaging. So the whole thing sort of immediately fell into place. So there was this link with nature in everything we did visually. There was the wink of an eye, or sort of the humor, lighthearted thing that Matthijs spoke about before, that we really wanted in the brand, that instantly came out of it. And a very clever thing that they came up with was this scan photography that Dan and Matthijs still use today. That was very clever, because this is a type of photography they can just make by themselves. So you basically put a handful of herbs or flowers under a scanner and you get really nice photography that you can make yourself, and that you don't need a costly photographer for to make. And they came up with ideas like this, where you could actually brand sort of the nature where Dan and Matthijs were harvesting and working in. So yeah, this is a bit about the brand identity today. Yeah, and then maybe Matthijs, it's nice to elaborate a bit more on sort of the activation part and how you are working with your sort of the new greens today. So
what do you mean with activation part?
Yeah, so I mean, this is the part where, you know, what we spoke about a lot is that, okay, we first want to sort of draw people into our world. So just, you know, in a light way, getting them to know our product, drinking a cup of tea. Yeah. But afterwards, you sort of went more down the rabbit hole where where they get more and more involved in the work that you do. So I just wanted to ask you to share a bit about that.
Yes, yes. So our idea is that like drinking tea is really like everybody drinks a cup of tea now and then. So it's a really easy way to get to. So like that's the down the rabbit hole is also like Alice going to Wonderland, and we think Alice needs to go to Wilderland. So drinking a cup of tea can be like looking into the rabbit hole and thinking, that's interesting. And you read maybe the copy on the label and think, creating a Wilderland with tea, how does that work? Now, and so then we want to like inspire you and attract your attention towards like this whole regenerative, super elaborative, big world. So first we think like, okay, maybe you drink some tea, then go to the website, see, oh, this is harvested there, this is the idea behind it. Oh, wow, actually, I wasn't aware that my native local plants were so good for bees and butterflies. And oh, wow, you can make other nice things from them. Oh, I'm now subscribed to the Wilderland news brief or the newsletter. And now they are talking about like foraging walks. Oh, I want to subscribe to one. And so actually we want to slowly on and that people will enter our world, our wilder world. And yeah, so what we saw is like we started with tea, and now we're at the point of launching a whole new range of products. Because we say like, yeah, you can make so many nice products from local plants, and like going down the rabbit hole. And what we also hear as feedback from our clients or feedback from people engaging with this is that they're like, I'm looking in a totally different way to the world now, because first I thought it's wheat, and now I think it's an ingredient, and now I think, oh, I can make this from that, and super cool. You can make tea, you can make iced tea, you can even make pasta, you can make beer from it. So it really opens the eyes of a lot of people, and so that's really cool. So it's not for, so yes, there is the commercial aspect, so we hope that you'll come back and drink some more of our tea, because then we can work with more farmers. But it's also that, yeah, you start looking at other things that where is this chamomile coming from, where are the ingredients coming from, and what do I think of it, is it logical? And first I thought, oh, nice green fields, but now I only see monocultures. And oh, no. So that is the whole thing of going down the rabbit hole to Wilderland.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, basically that's almost coming to the end of our presentation, and I didn't look at the chat yet, but I'm very curious about your questions. But I just wanted to share one more thing with you, is that if you have a brand and you're aiming to build a regenerative one, is that I'm going to start at the end of January, I'm going to start a year-round course where we can work together for a year with a really nice, inspiring group of regenerative entrepreneurs to sort of build your brand foundation right from the start, and at the same time being able to sort of ask all your nitty-gritty marketing questions to me. So if you're interested and you have a brand, hop over to my website and have a look if that could be for you. Yeah, and then maybe Laura, we can go to the questions in the chat.
Yes, perfect. First, thanks a lot for this story. It was really, really, I loved it. How going through this story and also having like an example straight with it was really something super helpful. And also, yeah, love the name. Yeah, so thanks for that. And then the first question was from David. So David, are you there? Maybe you can ask the question yourself. It's quite a long question. Yes. Hello.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for being here. It's always super exciting to meet people in the regenerative space. Yeah, I guess my question is, how did I phrase it? What do you think of the Tony Chocolonely selling part of their shares to another company, as I would consider that part of the extractive business model. And I'm kind of wrestling in my head what I think of this situation. And then second, can a regenerative brand have shareholders in general? As I personally think the root cause of climate change and ecosystem collapse is capitalism. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, good question. I think there is, I'm actually quite, I have to say, I'm actually quite new to the topic of how you can work with investors in terms of, and what fits a regenerative brand. It's something I myself are also exploring. And yeah, I think there are ways to sort of do it in a regenerative way, and setting up sort of models that benefit all again. But I'm not really clear on the example of Tony Chocolonely. I'm not really familiar with the InBev example. So I'm not sure whether you are, Matthijs.
No, but yeah, I think I really align with you, David, on this, because I'm also struggling with this all the time. So we don't want investors, because I don't believe impact investors yet, because I always think in the end they want like economical return. So you cannot say to an impact investor, thanks for your $1 million investing in my company, and I'll give you 2 million in ecological return, 10 million butterflies, and you're paid back in butterflies. And then they say, no, I want my $1 million back with a bit more. So there's always like a tension between economy and ecology. And I think that the past capitalistic system was like focused on the short-term economical value. And I think like if you look at a lot more long-term, then economy builds ecology, and then like fostering ecology will give you an economical return. So yeah, it's all, I think it's about the term. So what do you and how do you agree upon like selling shares to others? So I'm and actually I don't feel that Tony Chocolonely like is truly regenerative. I think they're non-extractive on the social part, but I have no idea whether their cacao or whatever is grown in polyculture and agroforestry. So therefore, I don't think that's a great example. But yes, I get always there's always like selling shares to like big old-fashioned companies. I think they'll always do it for the economical win, and then in the short or long term. Yeah, economics might win it from the ethics, so to say. So therefore, yeah, it's really hard actually to prevent destructive models from entering your regenerative model. I don't know yet how to deal with this as well. So therefore, we keep investors out. That was it.
Thank you. Happy to hear. I've always been a big fan of Wilderland, and actually also I always loved the PTT
Nice.
name, so I can feel the struggle to let go of that name.
Yeah.
Thanks for your answer. It's good to hear.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks. And we had another question from Paula. Paula, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You want to ask the question yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. And yeah, this is the first time I hear about Wilderland, and it sounds very interesting. And I'm here at Regenerative Farm. I'm doing an internship here. And one of the projects is about starting a regenerative brand on tomato and chili jam. So I was wondering, it's in the starting phase. So this is the first year that they actually made the batches of tomato and chili. So I was wondering what are the selling points for regenerative brands, and then further on how to expand those selling channels, because we want to sell it locally, but I think also for expanding the brand, it would be interesting to set up some online channels, maybe to sell those products. So I was wondering, what is your view on how to reach this market, and what would be then the starting selling point, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. It's a very broad question though. So yeah, it depends a lot about as we spoke about also earlier about what the scope is that you have, and what your sort of local context looks like. So whereabouts are you?
South of Spain.
Oh, you're in the south of Spain. Okay, super nice. So and you're on your regenerative farm, and you're interested in sort of building a brand from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and you already have a product developed, or?
Yes. So basically, the product, the tomatoes and chilies are from a regenerative farm itself. A partner is a producer, so he's in the next village, like half an hour drive, and he produces. He actually takes the tomato and chili and makes it into a jam, and he already has jars, so he's a partner in the process.
Yeah. And did you already get some feedback on your product? Are sort of people enjoying it? Did you get some sort of traction?
Yeah, so far what we had some tastings. It's quite a nice product, and here on the farm we love it, and we also had a few of the villagers taste it, and they like it. But then it's also in the area, they're very small villages, so I'm not really sure how people, how willing they would be actually to buy the product. Because then if we want to have it more on a large scale, because there's like thousands of jars, if we want to scale it up, then where would we go into the market? Would the online selling, maybe, I don't know, selling to France or Germany would be a next point. I know some of the cooperatives here in Spain sell to Germany.
Yeah, so I think for you, it's a very interesting sort of starting point to start with some of the questions that, we asked in the beginning of the presentation. So really becoming clear on what your dream is, so what your scope is. If you want to keep it very small and local and just, sell it to sort of the people in your local surroundings, or whether you want your or whether your scope or your dream is bigger, so that you for example would like to sell it in the Netherlands. So I think thinking about who you actually are as a brand, and where you want to go is a very sort of nice first step for you. And I feel sort of excited now about diving into your case and helping you, but it's obviously not gonna happen now. So if you like, we can just have a chat about it and see if I can help you with some first steps there.
Yeah,
always
that would
welcome.
be amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Nice. That's the beginning of a new track, I think. That sounds really nice. I was wondering, Janneke, you were asking, could you elaborate a bit on the making of the photography? It's beautiful. Do you want to ask something specific about it, or just know a bit more in general?
No, just in general, the beautiful pictures of the weeds.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think I have it here. Yes. So this is the scanner we use for all photography. It's like the cheapest scanner you can sell at or buy in the MediaMarkt or Coolblue or whatever. So it's really simple. We put on the herbs and leave the lid open and put it in a dark room, or make sure it's dark, and then just scan. And then like everything that is like on top of the glass or like close to the glass, it will appear sharp. from a picture perspective, and everything like a bit further away from the glass will blur. So therefore, you have this really cool depth in the yeah, that's how we do it. And we did it because yeah, we felt like we don't want like every new taste or everything we do that we need to go to an expensive photographer in a studio, really like fake setting and making the best picture of the herbs. That felt not simple and not good. And then we said like, can you help us with like a nice way or a simple way, cheap way, but still, yeah, contemporary and cool and not like really something that everybody else is doing. So therefore, this really works super good for us. And yeah, so yeah, I all the skins you see I made, so it's really easy.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Nice.
Thanks for this. Very inspiring. Thank you.
This open source sharing of methods. That's nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here I have a question of Vincent. Vince, do you want to share your question? Open up the mic.
Did I ask a question?
Basically, the question is, yeah, or maybe comment on it more than a question.
I don't think I had a question.
The last one. Eventually, the question is which ecosystems
Oh,
benefits
no,
from.
there was a response to the whole topic of shareholders.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So you want to leave it there. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. Then I had a question myself, actually. Maybe it's both to Matthijs and Marielle, but do you also, because people define their values, but do you feel like to be able to be called a regenerative brand, and maybe it's also to have something to do with the shareholder question, but also with shipping it around the world or not? Like, do you feel there need to be some set values to be called a regenerative brand or not? Or is that free up to us to fill that in? Also, when you're working with people, Marielle, for instance, is there a moment you say, no, here you cross the line?
Yeah, well, actually, that's a very interesting question, because my perspective on that is a holistic one, meaning as opposed to it's either good or bad. So I personally really like to look at each and every brand or situation in itself. So I personally, for example, believe that there could never be a regenerative certification or label, because I think it's in itself a sort of contradiction to come up with a set of rules and say, okay, this is what regeneration is for each and every brand, because I don't think it can ever work like that. It's for example, when you start with a new sort of a new you want to work on a new land, and you have to sort of, in one instance it could be a good idea to start tilling, and the other one it might be a very bad idea. And I think that's the same thing with brands. I mean, you have to start somewhere, and sometimes you have to make a decision or do something that is good at this point, but it might not be the best. So I always think you should take a small step and always keep the fact that you want to always choose life sort of as a compass. But I don't think there can be the same set of rules for everyone. If that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting concept, not being able to label and be really concept. Every case have to be, yeah, looking into every again and again and again, which takes more time, but also gives more depth.
Yeah, and of course there are instances that that I'm not on board with what someone asks me. So for example, I got approached by a large company once asking me to sort of help them with what they called like a green communication strategy. And I looked them up and I saw they were in the top 10 of a list of Greenpeace, saying that they were sort of really polluting, and obviously I will not work for a brand like that. So cases like that, that are really clear, obviously, then it works. But if people actually want to contribute and brands want to step forward, then I think it's always good to look at the specific context.
Thanks. Thank you.
Can I maybe ask something as well? Okay, so first of all, thanks, Marielle and Matthijs. It was really, really great to see it all coming together. I just wanted to dive in the question Laura asked us a little bit, because obviously what you see with the sustainable methods, like we have greenwashing now. So you always have to take into account, is this real or is it a strategy in order to look green? And obviously there is not a one type fits all solution for a regenerative brand, but on the other hand, you see rewashing going and keeping up the pace with greenwashing now. So do you have any advice on how you kind of know for yourself if a brand is legit or not? Because sometimes it's really difficult to see the difference.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and that's very, yeah. And I think that's also very personal, because that's also about my own sort of perspective of what is regenerative in my own context and what sort of fits me as a person, and that meaning sort of who I can work for and who I can't. But yeah, I think it's a very it's a good question, but it's also a hard answer for me. I don't know if Matthijs, if you have any thoughts on that, being an actual brand yourself.
Yeah, what I think, like we get asked for a lot of collaborations or brands or other people working together with us, and most of the time you feel whether it's right or wrong. And what I think for like the business model aspects of regeneration is like, if you're like optimizing, like I like the 4 returns of common land, like return of natural capital, social capital, financial capital, and inspiration. And if you are optimizing for one thing, so financial capital, which are most companies doing, and then they're using some greenish washing natural capital-ish thing, but they're still optimizing for financial capital. And I think, that's not regenerate. So you need to work on all 4 aspects. Yeah. So you cannot, and if you're only optimizing for natural capital, it's not working as well. So then you're maybe in more of an NGO. And if you're only optimizing for social capital, which maybe Tony Chocolonely is, then you're forgetting the net. So therefore it's really important to see like is this planting trees with every pair of shoes you sell, is that really a return of natural capital? I don't think so, because it's like, so it's profit first, and if we have a bit of extra profit, then we'll donate something. But that's like, so therefore I think it needs to be all in there, and it needs to be really locked into the business model. So that's what we figured. So we locked in our business model that it's always about local, mostly native species and plants. So therefore we don't want to export our tea, we want to export our model, because everywhere around the world you can enhance local biodiversity by making products from it. I think there's hardly none other company optimizing for natural, or like being really or trying to do something, or like building natural capital. So most of the things is greenwashing or like a gimmick. So that's all. Like if it's used as marketing, then it's always like, yeah, as soon as like margins or prices rise, or margins are there's a tension on the margin, then they'll drop the green marketing. So then it's like, yeah, it's not legit for me. And yeah, there are so many like companies that like, yeah, 50% of our profit we donate to this and that. I don't believe in that, because yeah, then it's like profit first and then people and planet. Because you first like people, planet first, and then if we make a bit of profit, then we're in good business. But and I think you feel that with a lot of companies. Is it like profit first and then maybe some planet or people, or is it people and planet first, and let's hope we can make profit from it?
Cool, thanks.
Is there somebody else that has having a question that maybe didn't ask it yet? Some thoughts you want to share? Yeah, Tim?
Yeah, it's great to hear what you've done as well. It's really, really inspiring. I love the way you talk about it as well. I just had a quick question around how are you going to ensure that impact, so with every product that you buy, everything that you buy, that natural capital, or the giving back to nature and people only grows? How do you see that in the future? You said you had a 2 to 5 year plan. How do you ensure that stays? Maybe part of that is, company structure. Don't give any voting shares away, maybe, but some of it is also like to do with the product and to do with your relationship with farmers.
Yeah, so an important aspect of that is like fully transparency, so that you all can always see like this product I bought, where was it harvested, or where is it coming from, so that it's always like, yeah, go and have a look at the farmer, so you can see it yourself. It's always close by, so it's coming from a farmer somewhere in the Netherlands. So if you don't believe it, go there, ask him or her how she thinks about us and the way we work. Yeah, so an important aspect for us is to keep the chain short, not to have like a long value chain, because the longer the value chain, the more you have to squeeze out the beginning of the value chain, and that's always like farmers or nature. So therefore we pay farmers, if you compare it to other companies, a lot for wheat, and that's also and so we want to have the price so that they feel like, yeah, I want to do more. And always, yeah, of course we can lower our price, but then they'll stop producing for us or working with us. So that's an important aspect of everything we do. The farmer needs to have a business model in this way of working. So if farmers say we cannot do it for this price, then we need to pay them more, because otherwise it's not working. And because we pay them more, and so we have a vision. So we want to, like, you can start small. You can start with 1 lane of herbs, and then maybe if you like it, then we can help you towards like the biggest little farm example. So that's so we want to help farmers transition towards like such a farm, and they only work. They'll only do that if the business model is right. But by if we work with farmers, we say, okay, if you are growing products or herbs or produce for us, it needs to be in strip cropping, no monoculture, no pesticides, no fertilizers, and we want to inspire you towards agroforestry. And yeah, it's an interesting or an appealing situation, because yeah, you earn way more than you do with your monocultures now. And actually that's what we see. Farmers want more. We have a waiting list of farmers that want to work with us. But yeah, because we think it needs to be locked in a business model, we need to grow first. And another important thing is, like, if you talk to ecologists or like really people knowing everything about ecology, then there are like two things really important if you want to have a contribution to biodiversity or nature. Work with mostly wild and native plants and no monocultures. So these are like really strict things for us. We are always looking like for edible and native, and then that's like the Wilderland sweet spot, because if it's edible, then we can make something from it. So the birch leaves, they're not tasty at all, but we smoke them and now we have a smoky tea. And so like most plants are edible, and that's our challenge. And the thing we like is to figure out how can we make it tasty. So that like people, if we eat more local native plants, then we'll restore our landscapes. But then it needs to be tasty, and farmers need to make money from it, because otherwise farmers will stop doing it. So that's basically the main starting points when working with farmers and how we think about products. So that's why we will not export our tea. We want to work in like in every ecosystem we're part of. We want to say like, what's logical for this ecosystem? Okay, it's wetlands. What kind of plants are native to these wetlands, and what can we do with them? So that's the term of the word we're launching, or how we think about it, is like culinary biodiversity. So it's like which things have like ecological aspects and like are tasty, and that sweet spot is like really cool. But you can also have like cosmetic biodiversity, and so there are a lot of products you can make from native plants. So maybe in 5 years, so now we're working on the culinary biodiversity, and maybe in a few years we'll also transition towards cosmetic biodiversity. And maybe someone in this group thinks, I want to go into the cosmetic biodiversity. Do it.
Really cool. Thanks very much. So do you work only with regenerative farmers already, or you also work with farmers that are transitioning or want to move away?
Yes, we work with like everybody on the spectrum of normal farmer or super engaged regenerative farmer. And actually I like all, because what you see, like there are a lot of regenerative farmers or food forests that are already 10 years old, and then there's like, I don't have any market for my hazelnuts or walnuts. And if we will not start selling in a few years from now, we all have to cut these trees again. So for them, we want to create market, but also a lot of like normal gangbare boeren in Dutch that say like, I don't know how the future looks like, but I know it's different from what I'm doing now, or new generation farmers. And they call us like, can we take a first step with you guys towards the future? And I don't know what. So we want to work with like everybody, and for everybody have like this, how do you say, handelingsperspectief in English? Yeah, so to help them transition. That's actually the thing. Yeah.
Really cool.
Nice. I think we're also going to an end because we only have 5 minutes left. Marielle, is there still something you want to say, or is there one like really somebody had a question but didn't ask it during the session, is now like, oh, this is my last chance? Then this is the time. So.
No, I'm okay. Thank you for your attention, and it was super nice to meet you all this way.
Yeah. Also really, really thankful, and that's yeah, really more fan even now of Wilderland, and I think it's a really strong brand. I'm really impressed by how yeah, the brand, and going down the rabbit hole, and I'm wondering yeah, how this rabbit hole is going. It's gonna
how deep it will be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. So then let's go to an end, so everybody, yeah, gonna have a nice Friday afternoon. So this was the last regenerative learning session actually for this year. So if you want to be kept up to date with the next ones, but also the other activities that we do and the people around us in our network do, I will just put some steps here. We have our newsletter. You can subscribe to the newsletter, and then you find all kinds of activities there. Because we do regenerative learning sessions, but we also really go into the fields. Maybe we can help one day with you, Matthijs, because we go into the fields with a group of people and we learn about the ecosystem, but we also really help to or plant trees or do all kinds of stuff. So get some really collective effort there. So you can find these activities. And there's also, if you want to learn more, there are former regenerative learning sessions that you can find on YouTube. The coming regenerative learning session is on the 6th of January, which is going to be on community. So really, put it already on in your agenda. And that's going to be in the new year, 2023. And these sessions are free. So if you feel like doing a small donation, you really help us going forward. And and Fons, Fons we'll talk later about it. I will give you a call. But I really want to have a big thanks to Marielle and to Matthijs to share their experience, share their knowledge. I think in this way we can collectively grow as a regenerative community. And I found it really super nice and inspiring. So thank you. So maybe if you feel like it, you can open up your microphone and say something to them and say goodbye. And then we have a nice Friday afternoon.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Really inspiring. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And have a beautiful day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.